So, how are you guys today? Are you getting ready for the big ice or snowstorm that's supposed to be hitting the Midwest? I think the South, going through the Midwest up into the East Coast. So, we're getting prepared for that. You guys need to stay safe out there. So, I was just thinking about this morning. I have thought about it on and off. So this is kind of I'm developing my view of this. So this isn't the end of it, but it is what I'm thinking about. And so any information, any input from you guys would be very appreciated. Uh, so, okay. Many of us grew up putting our hand over our hearts. Got to get the right one. Hand over our hearts in elementary school and pledging allegiance to our flag. I don't know if they still do that today, but that's what we used to do in elementary school. There was a welling of pride that flooded our hearts when we recited one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'm going to try this. We were required to memorize the preamble. And I think it was in maybe fifth grade that we were required to memorize the preamble to the Constitution. So I'm going to shut my eyes and I'm going to try to prove to you I can still remember it, but I may not be able to. When you get on camera, you can get nervous. Okay, got my eyes closed. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. I think I missed something. Okay, we the people of the, I've got it written here. We the people of the United States, in order to form a perfect and established justice, ensure domestic, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, yay, and secure blessings. I think I got it right. Yes, from fifth grade. That's pretty good. Okay. Now, older Americans will remember the solemn tones given to the discussions of our founding fathers and the Constitution. Again, I don't know if they're doing this in our public schools or even in our private schools anymore. Back when I was young, the Bill of Rights were the political equivalent to the Ten Commandments. While we claimed we separated politics and religion, we often used ecclesiastical verbiage when referring to our founding documents. I remember when I took our kids to the National Archives in Washington, D.C., when we were homeschooling them. And I remember our tour guide, as she was taking a group of us through where they kept the Constitution, the original one that was signed by the original signers. And she encouraged us to be quiet as we filed past the sacred Constitution. You know, the fields of battle where we gained our independence are called hallowed grounds. We have a great statue of our founding fathers. Well, I mean, we've got lots and lots of them, you know, that even dot our land. And a lot of people will go, oh, well, they look just like pagan idols from Athens or Rome. But because we're Protestant, at least the country was originally Protestant, they will ignore that. There's this gigantic sculpture of our heroes, such as President Lincoln in D.C., where American pilgrims visit to pay homage to these great men of old. Indeed, our heritage has fused religion into our politics. From our Declaration of Independence, I'm going to be quoting it, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To those brought up in my generation, our human rights have taken on, or they did take on, a supernatural existence of their own. Our founding fathers tell us these rights are inherent, absolute, inviolable, sacrosanct, unassailable, untransferable, non-transferable, unforfeitable. To continue the Constitution, it says, well, wait a minute, I'm going to say something first. Often you hear that the rights delineated in the Bill of Rights are human rights that pre-existed any written document and were derived from God. So I thought the American laws were straight from God and that they were untouchable by men. All United States citizens would automatically understand that our laws, whether we kept them or not, were innately supernatural and transcendental. Okay, so now we're going to read the next part of the Constitution after the part that says the endowed by their Creator. Okay, quote, whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it's the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such a form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Wait, what? That part of the Constitution really wasn't, they didn't really talk about that very much, did they? I'm pretty sure they didn't. Maybe in your generation they did. Okay, so the Constitution itself tells us that whenever we want to change or alter it or abolish the laws that are in them and institute new laws, we can do that if it's going to make us happier or safer. Now, talk about bursting the bubble of our laws being somehow from God, because if these were from God and these were so sacred, these rights were so basic to humanity, human rights from God, why would we want to just start over and alter them? So evidently the founding fathers who wrote it did not place on them the ultimate in brilliance. You know what I'm saying? They said things can change. Okay. So I just went back this morning, a little bit from that and focused on another line that was earlier. Quote, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. As an organized group of citizens, we get to choose the laws we're going to follow. Surely this is not what we were taught to think about our government and laws. That's not how we were taught to think about them. These inalienable rights were secured through inalienable laws, right? That's what we used to think. All this started, all of this Constitution stuff, all this American Revolution and America was basically started because we didn't want to pay taxes on tea. At least that was the myth, that we were told. And we argued that man cannot be taxed without their consent. So therefore, we sent off to the monarchy and said, bye-bye. So again, I thought about this. The great men of the 1700s, much smarter than we are, decided on these laws in our Constitution in order to protect our God-given human rights. Correct? But we all have to agree that they're good laws, or we can change them to make us happier. That's what they said. So what if we all decide we don't like the Constitution? Let's say a new generation of citizens living, or even just people living in the United States, decide the Constitution isn't making them happy anymore. What if they decide, rather than go through the legal steps of changing the Constitution, they'll just ignore it? Why follow the law to change the law if you don't like the law? Why would you have to go through the law to do it like the law says? Just take a local control and live as you wish. Now, I mean, obviously, a lot of us are going to go, hey, they've done that in some of our cities today. Okay, while it's not official, or it's short-lived in the Seattle area a few years back, or, like in Dearborn today, there are little communities where these different laws, sometimes the Sharia laws, take precedence over state and federal laws because the police don't implement the Constitution. They ignore it. It may shock some people today. It shouldn't, but it may shock them to learn that law means nothing when no one enforces it. There's nothing magical about the Constitution. It's not self-enforcing. It's a matter of reality that United States citizens must agree on the Constitution for it to legally survive. The Constitution itself admits that it can be replaced when there is a consensus of people who want it changed. If the Constitution's survival, and indeed Western culture's survival, we survive into the future, we're going to need to be Christians. Okay, I have a few questions that may shed light on my train of thinking, where I'm going here. Is there a logical reason for atheists to support the moral underpinnings of human rights in the future? Is there a realistic hope that Muslims will fight for the values found in the Constitution in the future? What about the masses of immigrants who are not educated in our history and have come for economic reasons? If they vote to keep the law, will they vote to keep the laws that spring from our Christian culture? Not likely. Christians will have to fight and breed like our very future is at stake. Politics and Judeo-Protestantism have enshrined the idea of separation of church and state that will not allow our culture to survive. If there are no Protestants in America who enforce the Constitution, there's no Constitution. Already we see the Protestants themselves as Christian nationalists, and they are right now singing the outcome of separation of church and state and moving towards a marriage of them. Now, Catholics have never believed in the secular state or a strict separation of church and state, and have always taught that when the church doesn't have an equal placement with the state will become God. We believe in a dual citizenship with our loyalties to God first and then the state. A close collaboration between those two entities without them becoming one, like in a theocracy. We need the two entities, but they need to collaborate and cooperate with each other. However, for our Constitution and our culture to continue, we need to ask, where do we start? What do we do? Should we just absolutely, when we see this absolute collapse of our society in different states right now, in in different areas, what do we do? What is the future of America going to look like? How do we change that? And I know that a lot of people are going to say, well, fight for the politics. Make it about politics. But we can't. The foundation must start out as Christian, in order that Christian values will be the premise of our laws, because that's what they are now. The premise, everything that we see in our Western civilization started out on Judeo-Christian laws, which came a lot from Scripture. The culture knew what sin was. They had a clear definition of right and wrong. Abortion, euthanasia, porn, adultery, pedophilia, polygamy, theft, greed, slavery. These are all wrong. They are all evil. And that's because the Christian view of the individual human life being in the image of God said that those things were evil because they hurt the image of God in all of us humans. Those things are not good for humanity. They are evil. But we go on from there. Christians believe in forgiveness, humility, mercy, hope, and a Savior God who loves us. Now, these are predominant, and died to save us. And these are predominantly values of Christianity that have shaped our Christian world. Other religions do not have our worldview and will set up laws that look like the Middle East or the Far East. Christianity is the basis for our laws, and we need to admit that. If Western civilization is to survive, Christianity must be the worldview and form its culture. We need to have a moral basis of Christianity and understand what is right and wrong from a traditionally Christian value system. So when you open up your laptop or turn on your computer or your television and you see the world crashing in on us, know that your first line of defense is not political. It cannot be. We cannot separate our politics from our religion. It is impossible. This is a spiritual problem the world is facing right now. And the way we're going to change the world and solve the problem is not through trying to figure out what's the most, where do we have the sliding scale of how we can include Islam and Buddhism, and we just can't do it. It will not work. It cannot work. The only thing that we can do, and I say the only thing, and it's the most wonderful thing in the world, is what we have to do. Each one of us as Christians, if we really want to stabilize our world and become active in changing this collapse of our system, we must become righteous and holy. These are our greatest weapons that we will ever have to fight with. Look at what's happening in our world. And let's think about what Christ said. I think it's in the Old Testament. But anyway, the prayer, wow, I don't remember now where that is. The prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Can't remember where it's from. No, it's in the Bible. Either God or Jesus, God the Father or Jesus said it. The prayer of a righteous man or woman availeth much. Put becoming righteous as your first priority. Then, as you are becoming righteous and holy, change the world politically. As Christians, our religion must inform our politics. Let's quit pretending that we can survive as a people, as a nation, by putting this idea of the separation of church and state completely away, that we can't let one inform the other. Don't obsess over what's going on with Trump or the radical right or the radical left and the libs. Be aware, but know that what you need to do is be holy. That's the way we're going to save our nation. Be holy, and that will inform our politics. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. And again, tell me what you think. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it. Okay, God bless.